Was popping YouTube back at it again with another video for y'all, man. Y'all tapped in with the Head of the Game podcast. Y'all read the title. Let's get busy. All right, class. I got a special video for y'all today. So make sure you got your popcorn or your little snacks ready because this is going to be a very in-depth video, right? Okay. So what is a Sigma male, right? I feel like there's a lot of narratives and perceptions and conceptions about this concept, right? Uh, a Sigma male is pretty much, I would say, maybe one of the rarest kind of social groups in the social hierarchy. They kind of in their own category. There's different variations of Sigma males, but I'm just gonna give you the full nature of it, so that way, because not all Sigma males are the same. They're very different. They're actually more so at times than not one of one. You feel me? Like there's certain similar traits to Sigma males, but for the most part, they're very like lone wolves. You feel me? They really don't stick in and kind of fit under the social construct of how society perceives and their perceptions and the status quo to everything, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and give you the detail about that. And this is gonna be one of the indicators to decide if you fit under this specific, social status, right? Um, Sigma males are usually like the black sheep of the family. Socially, they have to kind of manufacture, artificially create, indirect social skills to fit in with the social norms, even though they know they don't belong in a specific box or a category, right? So then I'm gonna just give you the different correlations with the other sorts of personality types and how they correlate with each other. So the alpha male, typically the alpha male is like the person that naturally people gravitate to on a social aspect, far as like having influence and personality and charisma. And usually the alpha male likes to have his presence felt in the room, and everybody else kind of falls in line and correlates towards that, right? So then you got like the beta sort of social construct where not they're subservient to the alpha male, but pretty much this is the person that's perceived as more so times than not the leader, and people that just have a very dominant impact on the environment. You feel me? So it's kind of like a give and take. Like the leaders need the followers, and the followers need the leaders. So it's not really much of an importance aspect, but there are less leaders than followers. Due to the fact that leaders are more so disagreeable and they kind of have their own perspective, or they're more, not to say they know more than what the beta personality would be, but they're more so willing to take the risks. You feel me? That most people aren't willing to take. Now, how that correlates towards the sigma is the sigma in a social setting, even though they could be more reserved, more quiet, more laid back, they're always analyzing and observing and reading the room. And if there's ever a contest between, the alpha and the sigma, it's a very, how can I say, it's a very polar opposite because they're always fighting for dominance. The sigma could is usually a do-it-yourselfer kind of like independent person. The alpha usually thrives in social settings, and this is why like the sigma and all these three types can have variations. So there can be an alpha sigma, sigma beta. Only the two things that don't usually correlate is the alpha beta. It's too far on the spectrum. But I feel like the sigma definitely has more of a reserve. Like he can be a team player, but at the same time, if there's something where there's no validation, there's no confirmation, which is also a weakness I feel like the alpha has. The alpha sometimes seeks validation, confirmation, acknowledgement, to thrive in that and to go off that energy. The sigma is more internal based, where they don't need a lot going on to have that. They're more inclined to their self identification. They don't have to go out and prove stuff and go through contests and stuff like that to really validate how they feel or what they feel about themselves. So now I'm about to go ahead and bring it full circle for y'all, right? So there's sigmas and there's different personalities, situations for different specific kinds of social aspects. So you could be a sigma in the business world, but then be an alpha or beta in your personal life, or your relationship or whatever. Now, this is where it gets complex, but I'm gonna go ahead and simplify it for y'all. So, specifically, sigmas or alphas, they don't typically, when it comes down to women, they're not submissive. They do know how to compromise, within reason, but for the most part, they're leaders. And one leads by example, and the other one, leads by instruction. And depending on what kind of woman you got, it's gonna be susceptible to whatever leadership style has presented. So that's why, when you have a specific female and she's not correlating or getting a part of your program, it may not be what you're lacking or what she's lacking. It could be just mere as simple as a compatibility, because nature and compatibility cannot be manufactured. It is what it is. You feel me? And as much as you would think that, because most situations, people be like, oh, okay, this person did me wrong, and that means they're going to go all, and typically that can be the case where somebody doesn't value you to the extent of what you want them to value as, and then you feel like that's just how they perceive people in general, and that's just but I feel like certain people can unlock certain character traits and abilities out of other people just due to the nature. So one person could treat you wrong, doesn't mean they're going to treat the other person wrong after that. It may be a little bit of bias, and it is, and I feel like people are biased towards their interests. You feel me? So, say for example, there's a woman that's with a guy, he makes $150,000 a year. He's a great provider. He's very, inspirational. He does a lot of stuff for the community, and he's just an impactful, prolific person. But the woman that he's with is not susceptible to what's being the optics from around the situation. But then she leaves him and then gets with a guy making about 50 bands a year. Maybe the lifestyle isn't as great, but the way that he impacts her nature-wise, she's a little bit more easier going, and she's more susceptible towards that kind of nature. So what was 3 times as hard to get a certain action out of one person may be twice as less, but it gets benefited twice as much just due to, that's how deep compatibility can be. It literally can correlate and determine your value system. You feel me? So, and same thing with the business world. I feel like the business world, when it comes down to leadership, and stuff like that, in that aspect, you could take a CEO from one company that specializes in, let's say, it's a tech industry. There's 2 different tech industries, but both industries are susceptible to a specific kind of tech. So let's say one's a social media, tech industry, and let's say the other one is, let's say they develop apps and stuff like that. They're the app developers as far as like, putting certain programs and stuff and knowing how to design apps. Now, they're in the same kind of industry, but the specifics, you feel me, of what's being specialized. And you can take one CEO that, really wasn't as well and stuff like that, and thriving and elevating the company, may thrive in a different company just due to his skill set and what that applies to. And you can even see it in sports as well. Like you see it all the time where a player, he's struggling, with a certain kind of system and certain kind of players, and then he gets traded, or maybe a coach leaves one situation and gets placed in another, and then able to thrive just due to the system and what's being asked out of that individual for our skill set wise. So, and I just sit up there and say, like, that's what determines, personality wise, whereas Sigma, Alpha, Beta, leadership styles and what's valued. It's all, it comes down to it being very subjective, and I feel like things aren't just always black and white. Things got different spectrums of colors, lots of gray area, and sometimes, it's all about fit. You can't fake fit. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Make sure y'all comment, like, subscribe. You feel me? Thoughts, comments down below. Yeah, I'm up out of here, man.